Friends, if you're excited to watch the upcoming fantasy adventure film The Legend of Ochi in English, then make sure to like this video right now. And if you're visiting our channel for the very first time, I warmly welcome you. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss out on our detailed and entertaining movie updates. Today's video is going to be packed with everything you need to know about The Legend of Ochi, a film that's already gaining a lot of attention even before its release. We'll start by introducing the movie itself, what The Legend of Ochi is all about, what makes it different from other fantasy films, and what kind of cinematic experience you can expect. This film promises a visually stunning and emotionally engaging story. And in this video, we'll uncover all the reasons why this movie is being talked about so much, from its world building to its unique characters and mystical plot. I'll walk you through all the highlights that make this a must-watch. You'll also get complete information on where and how to watch this movie, whether it's coming to any major OTT platform or will premiere on a satellite channel. I'll let you know the official release date and the best way to experience the movie once it's out. So, if you're planning to watch it from the comfort of your home or catch it in theaters, I've got you covered. Now, let's talk about the production side of things. We'll go deep into the technical department, how the movie was shot, what kind of visual effects and cinematography techniques were used, and how the music and sound design elevate the film's atmosphere. We'll explore the journey of this movie from its pre-production planning all the way through filming and post-production. If you're curious about the film industry or filmmaking process, you'll find this part especially fascinating. I'll also share details on the estimated budget of the film and what expectations people have for its box office performance. Then we'll move on to the most exciting part, the story of The Legend of Ochi. I'll give you a spoiler-free summary of the plot and a short review highlighting the tone, pacing, and emotional depth of the narrative. You'll get an idea of what kind of adventure awaits the audience and how the story connects with deeper themes like courage, discovery, and the bond between humans and nature. After that, we'll take a closer look at the cast and the characters. I'll introduce you to the star cast, the roles they play, and how well they've performed in their respective characters. From the lead roles to the supporting ones, we'll talk about how each actor contributes to bringing this magical story to life. If you're a fan of powerful performances and strong character development, this movie might have exactly what you're looking for. And of course, we'll wrap things up with some fun and interesting facts about the film that you probably didn't know. Things that happened on set, unique decisions made by the director, and the vision behind this cinematic world. So friends, this is going to be a fun, informative, and complete guide to everything related to The Legend of Ochi. That's why I strongly request you to watch this video till the very end. Whether you're a fantasy film lover or someone just looking for a great movie to watch, this video has all the details you need. So let's get started. Alright friends, buckle up because The Legend of Ochi doesn't just tell you a story, it sweeps you into a living, breathing myth. From the very first frame, it's clear that this isn't your typical fantasy film with a chosen one, an ancient prophecy, and a predictable battle between good and evil. No, this film chooses a different path. It invites you into a quiet, enchanted world full of mystery, wonder, and emotional depth, and it asks you to look, listen, and feel your way through the story instead of simply watching it unfold. It begins not with a bang, but with a whisper, a quiet, almost meditative introduction to our central character, Ochi. She's young, wild-hearted, and filled with a kind of untamed curiosity. She doesn't belong in the structured, fearful society that raised her. She's not a misfit in a cliché sense. She's something else, something undefined, which makes her instantly intriguing. The world around her feels like it's asleep, clinging to rules and legends it no longer understands. But Ochi, she's awake. She sees the cracks. She hears the sounds in the forest that no one else hears, and she's drawn to them. The film doesn't rush to explain. There's no voiceover spelling out the rules of this world, no big info dump about ancient lore. Instead, we follow Oki's point of view, and because she doesn't know what's going on, neither do we. That's the beauty of it. It's immersive, it's disorienting in the best possible way, and it invites you to discover things alongside her. This isn't a story told in a straight line. It meanders like a river, looping through dreams, memories, and surreal encounters. Sometimes it feels like you're watching a fable come to life. Other times it feels like you've slipped into a forgotten myth that was never meant to be remembered. One of the first big turning points comes when Oki crosses a threshold, literally and figuratively. She leaves her home behind and enters a forbidden wilderness that others fear. And then she meets them, the creatures. These aren't your cute, talking fantasy animals or ferocious beasts of war. They're strange, beautiful, ancient beings that seem to carry the memory of the earth in their eyes. They don't speak in language, but in emotion, gesture, and energy. And they don't immediately trust her. She has to earn their trust, not with power, not with weapons, but with presence, patience, and intuition. The connection between Oki and these creatures becomes the heart of the film. It's not just magical, it's symbolic. These beings represent everything that has been lost or silenced by the human world's obsession with control and fear. And through them, Oki begins to change. She's no longer just a curious girl. She becomes a mediator, a translator, a bridge between worlds. But not everyone wants that bridge to exist. Enter the conflict. Now, don't expect a typical villain twirling a dark cloak and declaring war. The antagonists here are more subtle, more human, and more unsettling. They are leaders, thinkers, pragmatists who believe the wild must be tamed, the unknown must be conquered, and power must be contained. They see the creatures as threats, or worse, as resources. And Oki? She becomes the complication in their plan, the unexpected variable who refuses to pick a side in the way they understand sides. There are no big battle sequences with exploding castles and clashing armies. Instead, the conflict is emotional, philosophical, spiritual. It's a story of perspective, of learning to see the world differently. And this is where the film really starts to play with structure. Scenes echo each other, images repeat with subtle variations, and timelines seem to stretch and fold like fabric. At times, you're not even sure if what you're seeing is happening now, or if it's a memory, a vision, or a prophecy. But it all adds up to something rich and deeply affecting. There's a moment, quiet, tender, and devastating, where Oki finds herself alone with one of the creatures after a profound loss. No music swells, no dramatic speeches, just a soft silence, a breath, a gaze. And in that stillness, something shatters and heals at the same time. It's the kind of scene that stays with you long after the credits roll. Not because of what's said, but because of what's felt. This movie understands that sometimes the biggest turning points aren't loud. They're subtle, internal, transformational. And then there's the ending, or rather, the way the film ends. Don't expect a checklist to be completed. Don't expect every answer to be revealed. This is not that kind of story. Instead, what you get is a culmination of emotional arcs, a sense of arrival that's more about self-realization than plot resolution. Oki doesn't just learn something, she becomes something. She's no longer running, no longer searching. She is. And that quiet, powerful shift resonates more than any epic showdown ever could. The Legend of Oki dares to tell its story differently. It doesn't care about formulas. It doesn't follow a tidy 3-act structure. It flows like music, it breathes like poetry, and it speaks in the language of dreams. It's not just about what happens next. It's about what it means, what it feels like, and how it lingers in your soul. And by the end, you're not just watching a legend unfold. You feel like you've lived it. Let's really dive into the characters of The Legend of Oki, because if you think this film is just about magical landscapes and mysterious creatures, think again. This story thrives because of the beautifully layered, emotionally rich, and often unpredictable characters who carry it forward. And I'm not just talking about the main hero here. Every single character, from the smallest supporting role to the silent, mystical creatures, feels alive, purposeful, and full of meaning. At the heart of the story, of course, is Oki. She's not a warrior. She's not a chosen one. She's not driven by revenge or trying to reclaim a throne. She's something far rarer in fantasy storytelling. A deeply curious, emotionally honest, and instinct-driven young girl who simply wants to understand. She starts the story with this inner tug. something that makes her look at the forest and the fog differently than others. She senses a rhythm in the world that no one around her seems to notice. Her character is written with remarkable restraint. She doesn't over-explain herself. Her thoughts often play out through her eyes, her hesitations, her reactions. That makes her journey so much more personal, because we're invited to watch her piece things together without having everything spelled out. You grow with her, slowly, organically, and with real emotional weight. One of the most rewarding things about Oki's character arc is how she transforms through experience, not through a magical spell or some sudden revelation. She learns through failure, through misjudging a situation, through hurting and being hurt, through trusting the wrong person, then trusting the right creature in the wrong moment. She doesn't gain power, she gains understanding. She begins as a girl with questions, and slowly, she becomes someone with insight. Not all the answers, but wisdom, the kind that only comes from looking inward as much as outward. And this transformation doesn't just serve the plot, it is the plot. The fantasy elements, the mythic creatures, the strange landscapes, they're all extensions of her inner journey. Now, let's talk about those creatures. It's so tempting to call them side characters, but that would be wrong. They're co-leads in this story, even though they don't speak a single word. These beings, ancient, elegant, wild, are not there for spectacle. Each one feels like it carries history on its shoulders. They're not just designed to be beautiful or scary. They feel like real entities with thoughts, emotions, memories, even a kind of moral compass. And the way Oki interacts with them becomes the most emotional part of the film. She doesn't just befriend them, she learns from them. At times, they guide her. At other times, they push her to question everything she believes. There's a bond that develops, especially with one creature that seems to recognize something in Oki before even she does. Their connection is not transactional. It's spiritual, intuitive, and often heartbreaking. Now on to the humans in Oki's world. And this is where the film really earns points for character depth. Take the adult figure who seems like a potential mentor or guardian. You think you know this type, the gruff, world-weary protector who doesn't want the child to leave. But the film slowly peels back layers. This character isn't just protective. They're afraid. They've seen things go wrong before. They've lost something or someone. Their warnings aren't just about rules. They're about pain, about a broken heart still bleeding quietly beneath the surface. Watching their relationship with Oki evolve is a masterclass in emotional tension. There's frustration, disappointment, admiration, and eventually something like trust. But even then, it's complicated. That's what makes it so real. The so-called antagonists in the film, they're not evil. In fact, they're some of the most interesting characters here. They represent a worldview that feels scarily familiar. The belief that order must be preserved, that nature must be controlled, that wild things are dangerous things. Their methods are cold, maybe even cruel, but never cartoonish. What's brilliant is that you understand them. You get why they want to cage the unknown, why they're afraid of the creatures Oki connects with, because they've seen what chaos looks like. They've just forgotten what wonder feels like. Some of them change. Some double down. That choice, to embrace mystery or reject it, is at the heart of every character arc in this film. Even the supporting characters, the ones who don't get long speeches or dramatic spotlight moments, are crafted with purpose. A passing villager who glances at Oki with unease. A child who's fascinated by her but too afraid to follow. A figure in the background who says nothing but leaves a lasting impression because of how they react when the forest stirs. These moments add texture, weight, and realism to the world. No one feels like filler. And here's something rare. The film treats its emotional beats with total sincerity. There's no wink to the audience, no undercutting of heartfelt moments with irony. When Oki breaks down, the film lets her break. When a character reaches out in forgiveness or collapses from grief, it's unfiltered. That emotional honesty gives the character development real power. You're not just watching arcs, you're feeling them shift and settle like tectonic plates beneath the story. By the time you reach the later stages of the film, you realize that every relationship, Oki and the creatures, Oki and the humans, even the creatures and each other, has gone through a quiet evolution. No big declarations. No, look how far we've come montages. Just small, deeply human changes. A gaze that softens. A hand that reaches out. A creature that stays instead of vanishing. These are the signs of real growth, earned over the course of a story that cares deeply about its characters and what they stand for. So, yes, the characters in The Legend of Ochi are not just well developed, they're essential to the heart of the film. Their journeys, their decisions, their quiet transformations, they shape not just the narrative, but the emotional gravity of the world itself. And long after the fantasy fades, it's these characters, their connections, their choices, their voices that stay with you. All right, let's go all in, because the performances in The Legend of Ochi aren't just good. They're the kind of performances that sneak into your bones without warning. They're not built for awards montages or dramatic highlight reels. They're quiet, honest, deeply human, even when they're coming from characters who are anything but. Every role in this film, from the central characters to the nearly silent ones hidden in the background, is infused with purpose, detail, and emotional truth. This is the kind of acting that doesn't tell you what to feel. It simply makes you feel it. Let's start where we have to. The lead actor playing Ochi. This performance is a masterclass in restraint, intuition, and emotional intelligence. Ochi is not a character who constantly explains what she's feeling. She doesn't stand around narrating her pain or shouting about her destiny. Instead, she feels her way through the story, and the actor playing her makes every single moment of that journey palpable. You see fear register in her eyes before she even flinches. You see wonder ripple through her body as she reaches toward the unknown. You see courage not as something loud or flashy, but as something trembling and determined that builds slowly over time. It's all there in the silences, in the glances, in the decisions she makes when no one's watching. She brings something rare to the screen, presence. There are scenes, long, quiet scenes, where she doesn't say a word, but you can't look away. She's in tune with the world around her in a way that makes you feel like you're learning how to see it, too. Her connection to the natural world, to the magical creatures, to the very rhythm of the forest. It's not just written into the script. It's performed instinctively as if she's not acting at all but simply being. That's the kind of performance you don't forget. Now let's talk about the adult characters, especially the one who shares the most complicated relationship with Ochi. This character, maybe a father figure, maybe a protector, maybe someone from her past, is played with such aching subtlety that they don't need backstory spelled out in flashbacks. Their performance is the backstory. Every word is weighted. Every hesitation, every change of tone, every sigh. It all reveals the years behind them, the things they've lost, the fears they carry like invisible armor. What makes this role so powerful isn't that the character eventually comes around or delivers a big emotional speech. It's that the actor resists that temptation entirely. Instead, we see the transformation happen in micro moments. The way their voice softens when speaking to Ochi for the first time in a while. The way they start to trust her judgment, even if they're too scared to admit it. The way their eyes follow her as she walks into danger, not with disapproval, but with helpless hope. It's devastating and beautiful. And then we have the authority figures, the ones who don't believe in the magic, who fear the creatures, who want to impose order on a world that clearly doesn't want it. These are the characters that could have been one-note villains, but the actors elevate them into something more layered, more tragic, even. They speak with conviction, with calm, with a deep belief that what they're doing is right. That's what makes them so chilling. There's no malice in their actions, only control. These performances make you uncomfortable in all the right ways, because they remind you how dangerous fear can be when it's wrapped in good intentions. And in a few key moments, when that fear cracks and you glimpse the insecurity underneath, that's when the performances go from strong to unforgettable. And then, let's not skip this, the creatures. Technically, they may not be actors in the traditional sense, but make no mistake. Someone performed these creatures. Whether it's motion capture, animation, puppetry, or a combination of all three, these beings perform. They have expressions. They have reactions. They respond. And there's one in particular that forms a bond with Ochi. a creature who becomes more than just a companion. The way it watches her, tilts its head, pauses before approaching. These moments are as emotionally rich as any human dialogue. It's all in the timing, the rhythm, the space between action and reaction. You begin to read the creature like you would a close friend, not because the film tells you to, but because the performance draws you in. It's not just believable, it's transcendent. Even the smallest roles, the ones with maybe one or two scenes, are treated with care. A mother who glances anxiously at the edge of the forest. A child who mimics Oki from a distance. A villager who quietly steps back when the creatures draw near. These aren't extras, they're storytellers in their own right. Each one brings a different reaction to Oki's journey. Fear, fascination, suspicion, admiration. And the actors don't overplay it. They do just enough to make their presence felt. That restraint is what gives the film its emotional weight. It's like the whole world is watching Oki, silently, cautiously. But the actors make that watching feel real. Another standout quality in these performances is the chemistry between the cast members. And again, we're not talking about romantic chemistry. This is about rhythm, responsiveness, and emotional tethering. Oki doesn't just perform her character. She reacts to everyone else's. She listens, she learns, she changes based on what others give her. And the actors around her respond in kind. You feel the tension in a scene not because of what's being said, but because of what's not being said. You feel history in the way two characters stand apart from each other. You feel forgiveness in a single nod. This is acting that treats silence as sacred, and it pays off in every frame. So if you're watching The Legend of Oki for the sweeping visuals or the mysterious plot twists, don't be surprised when what really stays with you isn't the magic, it's the people. The girl who learns to listen to the trees, the adult who learns to believe again, the creature who shows more emotion than most humans ever do, the characters who quietly shift the air around them just by showing up with truth in their eyes. These performances don't demand your attention, they earn it. And once they have it, they never let go. Oh, you want to go deeper into the direction of The Legend of Ochi? Buckle up, because this isn't just good directing. This is the kind of filmmaking that feels like alchemy. The director here isn't just moving pieces on a chessboard. They're weaving together emotion, myth, sound, color, silence, and space into something that feels like it was born, not made. You don't watch this movie, you fall into it. And that's not by accident. That's direction operating on another level entirely. Let's begin with tone and atmosphere, because in a film like this, tone is the story's soul. The director sets a mood from the very first shot and holds it like a steady hand through every scene. You step into the world and it immediately feels heavy with history, like the trees have secrets, like the air has memory. There's an ancient, melancholic quality to everything, but it's not bleak. It's mysterious. It's the tone of forgotten lullabies and half-remembered legends. You feel it in the light filtering through fog, in the distant sound of something moving just out of sight. The director is playing with your senses, tugging on your curiosity without ever quite revealing the full picture. That restraint, that trust in mood over explanation, that's pure, deliberate directorial control. And then there's the pacing, which some might call slow, but that's missing the point. The pacing isn't slow, it's intentional. The director is giving you space to breathe, to observe, to fall into rhythm with Oki herself. It's like the movie is teaching you how to watch it. It's not driven by plot points or chase sequences. It's driven by discovery. The pace allows tension to simmer rather than explode. It allows moments to expand. You feel the weight of silence. You sit with discomfort. You witness transformation. This pacing asks you to meet the film on its terms, not the other way around. And when you do, it's like you've unlocked a hidden chamber. Stylistically, this director doesn't lean on typical fantasy aesthetics. There's no glossy grandeur here, no overlit castles or perfectly choreographed battles. Instead, the style is raw, tactile, elemental. The color palette is earthy, mossy greens, damp browns, pale grays that make light and shadow feel like living characters. The visuals don't dazzle you for the sake of being pretty. They haunt you because they feel true. The creatures aren't glamorous, they're strange, unsettling, mesmerizing. The magic doesn't sparkle. It hums quietly under the surface, like a secret only nature understands. The director brings this style together in a way that feels instinctive and cohesive, not designed by committee, but carved out of instinct and vision. Shot composition deserves its own standing ovation. There's nothing random about where the camera sits in the Legend of Ochi. You can freeze almost any frame and study it like a painting. Sometimes the shots are tight and intimate, so close you feel like you're inside the character's breath. Other times, they're impossibly wide, showing tiny humans swallowed up by towering landscapes. That constant contrast between intimacy and vastness mirrors the film's emotional core. The personal versus the mythic, the individual versus the unknown. The director uses visual space to tell you how the characters feel without saying a word. When Oki is unsure, the world dwarfs her. When she starts to understand it, she steps into the center of the frame with quiet power. It's a masterclass in visual storytelling. Sound design under this director's hand becomes more than just a technical layer. It becomes emotional language. There are long passages where dialogue takes a back seat and the only guide you have is what you hear. Rustling leaves, creature cries in the distance, thunder rumbling over a mountain. Even the silences are charged. The absence of sound feels like a presence in itself, pressing in, asking you to listen. And when the score does swell, it doesn't overwhelm, it pierces. It's spare and spiritual, tied to the earth, the wind, the pulse of something ancient. The director isn't just using sound to decorate scenes. They're sculpting with it, shaping your emotional response moment by moment. And let's not overlook how the director handles the unseen. One of the boldest choices is how much they don't show. There are creatures that stay just out of focus, mysteries that are hinted at but never fully explained, places that feel sacred and strange without needing exposition. The director leans into ambiguity, not to be confusing, but to preserve wonder. They understand that mystery has more power than clarity, that what we imagine is often more potent than what we're shown. This decision to let some things remain unsolved is what gives the film its lingering spell. You don't walk away with answers. You walk away with questions. And that's the point. Character interaction is another quiet triumph of this direction. The relationships in this film are sparse, wordless at times, but the way the director stages those interactions speaks volumes. Where characters stand when they turn away, how long they hold a glance, it's all choreographed to reveal tension, affection, mistrust, curiosity. One of the most powerful moments in the film might be a simple scene where Oki stands near someone from her past. No dialogue, just shared space. And yet, you feel everything that's gone unsaid. That's the director knowing that human connection doesn't need grand declarations. It needs presence. And perhaps most impressively, this director never loses sight of the emotional spine of the film. For all its mythic scale, The Legend of Ochi is ultimately a story about belonging, identity, and transformation. And the director keeps that truth pulsing beneath every fantastical element. You can feel it in the way Oki reacts to the world, in the way she changes her posture, in the way the environment itself seems to shift with her. The director isn't using fantasy to escape reality. They're using it to amplify emotional truth. Every strange creature, every moment of surrealism, every whispering tree is grounded in something real. Grief, hope, fear, love. That's the genius of it. That's what makes it unforgettable. So when we talk about the direction of this film, we're not just talking about someone who called action and cut. We're talking about a filmmaker who composed a symphony out of silence and movement and instinct. Someone who built a story you feel more than you follow. Someone who took a risk on poetry over plot, on mystery over explanation, on emotion over exposition, and made it work with absolute precision. That's not just direction. That's vision. And this film is soaked in it from the first frame to the last.
All right, let's dive even deeper into the cinematography of The Legend of Ochi, because this film doesn't just look beautiful, it feels like a masterclass in how visuals can shape a story's soul. The cinematographer's work here is a blend of art and storytelling that envelopes you completely, turning every frame into a piece of living mythology. It's not just about capturing the action or the setting. It's about immersing you into a world that's mysterious, haunting, and breathtaking all at once. First, the camera angles. These are chosen with such care that they almost feel like characters themselves, silently narrating the story alongside the actors. You notice early on that the film refuses to settle for predictable perspectives. Instead of always placing the camera at eye level or following traditional hero shots, it shifts dynamically depending on the emotional context. For example, when Oki is vulnerable or unsure, the camera often dips low or angles upward, making the environment loom over her like a living, breathing giant. This choice doesn't just convey physical space. It creates a psychological atmosphere where the forest feels almost sentient, watching and waiting. Conversely, when she gains confidence or steps into her own power, the camera rises and centers her, visually telling us she's becoming a force to be reckoned with. One of the most captivating things about the cinematography is how it uses framing to create emotional resonance. You'll find that many shots are framed tightly to capture the intensity of characters' emotions, the furrowed brow, the subtle twitch of a mouth, the glint of determination in eyes. But these intimate frames never feel claustrophobic. They're balanced with expansive wide shots that give a sense of the vast, untamed wilderness surrounding the characters. This push and pull between tight close-ups and sweeping landscapes mirrors the story's central tension, the personal struggle within an immense, mysterious world. It's as if the cinematographer is constantly reminding you that these characters are small players on a grand, ancient stage, but their stories carry universal weight. Lighting is an absolute game-changer in this film. Forget the polished, glossy fantasy lighting you might be used to. This cinematography leans into the raw, imperfect beauty of natural light. Dawn breaks through thick canopies and soft, diffused beams that shimmer and dance, while dusk drapes everything in muted blues and purples that make shadows stretch and creep like silent predators. There are moments where flickering firelight bathes characters in a warm glow that's both comforting and fleeting, emphasizing themes of hope and impermanence. The way light and shadow interact is almost tactile. You can feel the cool dampness of the forest floor, the sharp contrast of sunlight against bark, the slow fade of daylight into the mysterious embrace of night. These lighting choices don't just set mood, they become a language all their own, communicating unease, peace, or wonder without a single word. Color grading here plays a subtle but powerful role. Instead of bright, saturated hues, the film opts for an earthy palette that grounds the fantasy in something organic and primal. Think mossy greens, deep browns, and soft grays with occasional muted reds and blues that pop just enough to catch your eye but never overwhelm the scene. This restrained use of color reinforces the film's dreamlike atmosphere, making every scene feel like a memory or a legend passed down through whispers. It also supports the emotional arc. When tension rises, colors drain and desaturate. When moments of connection or revelation occur, there's a gentle warming that invites you to lean in closer. This nuanced control of color helps guide your feelings, even when dialogue falls silent. Now let's talk about those visually striking moments that grab your attention and refuse to let go. One unforgettable scene places Oki in a forest clearing where sunlight filters through thick foliage in almost tangible columns. The cinematography captures the scene so poetically that it feels less like a shot and more like stepping inside a living dream. You see Oki's small figure framed by towering trees and dappled light, and you can almost sense her awe and cautious hope. Another iconic shot teases the arrival of a mysterious creature, showing only partial glimpses in deep shadows, leaving much to the imagination. This deliberate choice to withhold full visuals heightens the tension and intrigue, letting your mind fill in the gaps with something both beautiful and unsettling. Movement of the camera is another layer of storytelling that elevates the entire experience. The film favors slow, deliberate tracking shots that follow characters' movements with a steady, almost hypnotic rhythm. These shots aren't just about showing action, they make you feel every step, every breath, every quiet moment of anticipation or fear. The camera glides through the underbrush alongside Oki, making you hyper-aware of the textures around her, the crunch of leaves, the sway of branches, the cool dampness of moss. When tension spikes, the camera shifts too, suddenly snapping or panning sharply to reflect the sudden danger or surprise. This contrast keeps you alert, emotionally invested, and visually engaged. The cinematographer uses movement not just to guide your eye, but to echo the heartbeat of the story itself. Close-ups in this film deserve special mention because they bring the characters' inner worlds right to the surface. The cinematographer lingers on hands brushing rough bark, eyes darting with quiet fear or fierce determination, lips barely moving as secrets and emotions churn beneath the surface. These intimate shots break the barrier between screen and viewer, inviting you into moments of vulnerability and strength alike. You don't just see these characters, you experience their emotions. And that's a rare gift in any film. Depth of field is used masterfully to add layers to the story. Often, foreground elements blur softly while the subject remains razor-sharp, creating a visual metaphor for hidden truths and unseen forces. This layered composition suggests that the world of the Legend of Ochi is filled with things lurking just beyond perception. Old magic, forgotten memories, looming threats. It's a subtle visual way of saying, there's always more here than meets the eye. The cinematography invites you to look deeper, to question what's real, and to lose yourself in the film's rich texture. Finally, the interplay between cinematography and sound design can't be overstated. Many scenes are constructed to let the visuals and ambient sounds breathe together, creating moments of quiet meditation where every flicker of light and shadow gains emotional weight. The camera's careful framing combined with the rustle of leaves, distant animal calls, or the whisper of wind makes you feel as though the forest itself is alive and speaking to Ochi and to you. This synergy between what you see and what you hear deepens immersion and makes the story resonate on a sensory level. So yes, the cinematography in The Legend of Ochi is a feast for the eyes, but it's also so much more than that. It's a storyteller, a mood maker, an emotional compass. The soundtrack and score of The Legend of Ochi go far beyond the usual role of background music. They function almost like a hidden character, a subtle storyteller that communicates emotions and atmosphere in ways dialogue and visuals alone cannot. From the very first moment the music starts, it becomes clear that this isn't your typical fantasy soundtrack filled with bombastic orchestral flourishes or predictable heroic fanfares. Instead, the composer has crafted a sonic landscape that feels deeply organic and intimately connected to the world the film builds. The music often sounds as though it's emerging from the natural environment itself, like whispers of wind weaving through ancient trees, the distant, haunting calls of unseen creatures, or the gentle rhythm of a flowing river. These naturalistic elements aren't just decorative, they form the very fabric of a score, grounding the mystical and sometimes otherworldly story in an earthy, tactile reality. One of the most fascinating features of a score is the use of recurring motifs that evolve throughout the film. The main musical theme associated with Ochi herself starts very subtly, almost as if it's hiding in the background, just a faint, fragile thread of melody that hints at her inner strength and the mystery surrounding her. But as the story unfolds, this motif becomes more pronounced and complex, mirroring Oki's personal growth and the deepening layers of the narrative. It's not a simple heroic anthem, but a nuanced, evolving piece that adapts in tone and instrumentation to reflect her changing emotions and the challenges she faces. You find yourself recognizing this melody as a sort of emotional compass, linking disparate moments across the film and giving a sense of cohesion to the story's unfolding. The composer's masterful restraint is evident throughout. Instead of saturating scenes with constant music, the score often pulls back, allowing silence or ambient sounds to take center stage. This interplay between music and silence is where the score truly shines, because these pauses create a powerful emotional tension. When the music drops away, it invites the audience to lean in closer, to feel the weight of the moment through subtle sound effects, the crackle of leaves underfoot, the faint rustling of fabric, or the soft, uneven breath of a character in distress. These sounds blend with the absence of music to amplify the film's atmosphere and emotional resonance. This delicate balance of sound and silence is a hallmark of thoughtful scoring, and it helps make the film's quieter, more introspective moments resonate deeply. When the music does rise, it often does so with rich textures rather than loud or flashy gestures. Instead of grand orchestral explosions, the score favors layered, intimate instrumentation, soft strings that hum with tension, woodwinds that sigh like a breeze, and subtle percussion that mimics the natural rhythms of the wilderness. These elements combine to build an atmosphere that is both mystical and grounded, echoing the film's blend of folklore and personal journey. Occasionally, the score introduces choral voices or ancient-sounding instruments, adding a ritualistic or spiritual dimension that ties into the film's mythic undercurrents. This use of texture and timbre gives the soundtrack a timeless quality, making you feel as if you are hearing echoes of an ancient legend passed down through generations. The way the score blends with the film's sound design is another impressive aspect. Transitions between music and environmental sounds happen so fluidly that you hardly notice them. One moment you're immersed in a soft, haunting melody, and the next, it dissolves into the ambient sounds of the forest or a distant bird call, as if the music itself is dissolving back into the world. This seamless fusion reinforces the film's immersive quality and enhances its dreamlike mood, making it feel like the story unfolds within a living, breathing ecosystem where sound and nature are intertwined. Throughout the film, the soundtrack's timing is impeccable, always arriving exactly when needed to heighten the emotional stakes. At key narrative moments, whether it's a sudden revelation, an intense confrontation, or a quiet victory, the music swells just enough to lift the scene without overpowering the dialogue or visuals. These moments feel carefully calibrated, enhancing the impact without calling attention to themselves. The score becomes a kind of emotional undercurrent, guiding your feelings without dictating them, which is a sign of mature and sensitive film scoring. The composer's willingness to experiment with unconventional sounds adds further depth and intrigue. Besides traditional instruments, the score occasionally incorporates unexpected sonic elements, metallic clangs that ring out like distant bells, low drones that suggest ancient powers, or whispered vocalizations that sound almost like chants. These sounds create moments of unease or mystery, perfectly matching the film's balance between beauty and danger. This adventurous approach keeps the soundtrack fresh and unpredictable, preventing it from slipping into genre cliches. Emotionally, the music mirrors the characters' arcs with remarkable subtlety. When Oki experiences fear, doubt, or loneliness, the score often shifts into minor keys with sparse instrumentation, underscoring her vulnerability and isolation. Conversely, when she finds moments of courage, connection, or hope, the music introduces warmer harmonies and richer arrangements. This emotional resonance helps the audience connect with Oki on a deeper level, making her internal journey feel palpable even in scenes where little is said aloud. In action or suspense sequences, the score doesn't resort to frantic or over-the-top musical cues. Instead, it builds tension gradually through repeating rhythms and carefully layered sounds, creating a slow-burning sense of urgency. This restrained approach to action music complements the film's pacing and editing, allowing the tension to build naturally rather than forcing excitement with cliched musical tropes. In short, the soundtrack and score of The Legend of Oki are far more than mere accompaniment. They are an integral part of the storytelling, shaping the film's mood, reinforcing its themes, and deepening its emotional impact. The music invites you to listen beyond the obvious, to feel the hidden currents beneath the narrative, and to experience the story as something living and breathing. It's a richly textured, emotionally intelligent score that lingers in your mind long after the credits roll, quietly echoing the legend you've just witnessed. The Legend of Oki isn't just a visual and narrative spectacle. It's a film that invites you into a world buzzing with ideas, themes, and messages that sneak up on you long after you've watched it. One of the most compelling explorations here revolves around identity, but not in a straightforward way. Instead, it's about the messy, complicated process of becoming. Oki's journey is less about discovering some fixed, heroic identity, and more about embracing the layers, contradictions, and unknowns that make her who she is. The film uses folklore and myth not as distant, untouchable concepts, but as vibrant metaphors for the internal struggles we all face when trying to understand ourselves. Her transformation feels authentic because it's messy, non-linear, and filled with moments of doubt, fear, and revelation, much like real life. It whispers to the audience that true self-discovery isn't a straight path, but a labyrinth full of shadows and light. Closely linked to this is the profound theme of humanity's relationship with nature. The forest and wilderness in The Legend of Oki aren't just pretty backdrops, they're living, breathing forces with moods, memories, and power. The film paints nature as something to be deeply respected and feared, a place of both protection and peril. This duality challenges the usual fantasy trope of nature as either purely good or evil, instead presenting it as a complex character that reflects the unpredictability of life itself. Oki's interactions with the natural world serve as reminders that humans are not separate from nature, but part of an intricate web where balance is essential. The film prompts us to think about the consequences of disrupting this balance, a theme that feels especially relevant in today's environmental conversations, yet here it's woven seamlessly into the narrative, never feeling like a lecture. Then there's the theme of legacy, the idea that our pasts, whether personal or ancestral, shape us in ways both visible and hidden. Oki is burdened and empowered by histories that aren't just hers, but belong to her lineage and community. This legacy casts long shadows over her choices, raising questions about fate, free will, and how much control we really have over our stories. The film doesn't sugarcoat this. It acknowledges that the past can trap us in cycles of pain and fear, but also suggests that confronting and understanding those histories can be a source of strength and healing. This theme adds a bittersweet tone to the film, reminding viewers that while we can't erase our past, we can change how it shapes our future. Courage and resilience also pulse through the film's veins. But the Legend of Oki presents these ideas with nuance. Bravery isn't glamorized as fearless heroism. Instead, it's portrayed as the quiet, stubborn act of moving forward even when fear is loud and paralyzing. Oki's journey is filled with setbacks, moments when giving up seems like the easier choice, yet she keeps going. This message resonates on a deeply human level, grounding the film's fantastical elements in something profoundly relatable. It reminds us that resilience isn't about grand gestures, but often about small, persistent acts of courage that build over time. What's remarkable is how these themes emerge organically. They aren't hammered in with heavy-handed dialogue or obvious symbolism. Instead, they flow naturally from the characters' experiences and the film's atmospheric storytelling. This subtlety respects the audience's intelligence, allowing viewers to interpret and connect with the ideas in their own way. The story becomes a kind of puzzle or a dream you piece together, which keeps you engaged not just intellectually, but emotionally. A particularly intriguing theme is the fluid nature of truth and perception. Throughout the film, Oki encounters shifting realities and conflicting stories, which challenge her and the audience to question what is real. This exploration of narrative reliability adds a layer of mystery and complexity, encouraging viewers to consider how much of what we believe is shaped by perspective, memory, or myth. It's a clever reminder that truth isn't always black and white, and understanding it requires openness and humility. Connection forms another core message, weaving through the film like an invisible thread. Oki's relationships, whether fraught or supportive, highlight how our interactions with others shape who we become. The story suggests that healing and growth often come through these connections, even when they're complicated or painful. This theme adds emotional depth, making the fantasy elements feel more grounded and human. It's a subtle reminder that no matter how solitary our struggles may seem, we're rarely truly alone. Finally, the film meditates on the coexistence of light and darkness within individuals. Instead of portraying good and evil as opposing forces, it presents them as intertwined parts of a whole. Oki's journey is about accepting this complexity, embracing both shadow and light to become whole. This theme resonates through the film's tone, sometimes mysterious, sometimes unsettling, but always infused with a hopeful undercurrent. It encourages viewers to accept imperfection and uncertainty, challenging the common fantasy trope of clear-cut heroes and villains. Taken together, these themes give the Legend of Oki a richness that elevates it beyond a simple fantasy adventure. It's a story that entertains but also invites deep reflection, leaving viewers with ideas and questions that linger long after the credits roll. The film becomes a journey not just through a magical world, but through the very human experience of growth, connection, and transformation. The Legend of Oki showcases visual effects and CGI in a way that feels less like a flashy fireworks display and more like an intricate tapestry woven thoughtfully into the film's fabric. From the moment the story unfolds, the effects serve as a subtle, yet powerful storytelling device that invites you to believe in a world where magic is not just spectacle, but an integral, breathing part of reality. Instead of overwhelming the viewer with non-stop digital showiness, the effects team has taken a very measured and intentional approach, letting the natural environment, practical sets, and physical effects build the foundation, while CGI delicately layers in the mystical elements that bring the legend to life. One of the most striking features is how well the visual effects blend with the film's practical effects, creating a seamless experience that never feels jarring or artificial. For example, many of the creatures and magical beings we see on screen have a real-world presence thanks to extensive use of puppetry, animatronics, and detailed makeup prosthetics. These tangible elements give the actor something real to interact with, which translates into more authentic performances filled with genuine reactions. Then, carefully applied CGI enhances these creatures with subtle movements, magical glows, or ethereal textures that make them appear alive in ways physical effects alone couldn't achieve. This hybrid approach respects classic filmmaking craftsmanship while embracing the possibilities offered by cutting-edge digital artistry. The digital effects themselves are thoughtfully crafted, showing an impressive attention to detail and texture, lighting, and movement. When magical energy swirls through the air or ancient runes glow softly on stone, the visuals are not just eye candy. They carry weight and atmosphere that deepen the story's immersive quality. The effects avoid looking overly glossy or cartoonish, striking instead a balance between realism and fantasy. This makes the magic feel grounded, almost believable within the film's mythic universe, which is a rare feat for fantasy cinema, where digital excess often pulls viewers out of the moment. One of the most enchanting uses of CGI is how it transforms the natural world around Ochi into something extraordinary. The forest itself seems alive, not just through practical set design but through digital enhancements that add layers of mystery and magic. Wisps of glowing spores float lazily through the air, shadows move with a mind of their own, and flickering lights hint at unseen presences. These subtle effects deepen the sense that this is a world where nature and magic are intertwined, where the environment is a character in its own right, sometimes protective, sometimes threatening. The result is a lush, dynamic setting that feels rich and fully realized. The creatures featured in the film are a highlight of the visual effects work, brought to life through an artful mix of practical and digital techniques. Rather than relying solely on CGI, the filmmakers chose to ground these beings in reality with animatronics and physical models enhanced by digital animation. This approach gives the creatures an undeniable presence and weight on screen, making them believable inhabitants of Oki's world. Their designs cleverly avoid extremes, neither too cute nor too monstrous, striking a tone that fits the film's blend of wonder and danger. Watching them move and interact, you sense the meticulous craftsmanship that went into bringing them to life. Transformation scenes, where characters undergo magical or physical changes, are especially notable for their creative use of effects. Instead of generic visual flourishes, these moments use detailed CGI to emphasize the emotional and thematic significance of change. Glowing veins, shifting shadows, or elemental bursts are choreographed with care to reflect internal struggles, growth, or revelations. The magic here isn't just decorative, it's storytelling in visual form, allowing the audience to experience the characters' journeys on a visceral level. The visual effects also play a key role in setting the film's pacing and emotional tone. During quieter, more introspective scenes, the effects tend to be understated and atmospheric, like faint pulses of light or subtle distortions, that draw viewers deeper into the mystical ambience without overwhelming the senses. In contrast, the action sequences burst with more dynamic CGI, featuring swirling magical energies, elemental blasts, and intricate choreography of light and shadow. This contrast in effects style helps the film maintain a balanced rhythm, shifting smoothly from moments of quiet wonder to thrilling spectacle. Importantly, the digital effects never feel out of place or disconnected from the rest of the film's visual style. The color grading, lighting, and texture of CGI elements match the cinematography and production design so closely that the entire world feels cohesive. This visual harmony allows viewers to stay immersed without being pulled out by distracting digital artifices. It's a testament to the close collaboration between the visual effects team, cinematographers, and production designers that every shimmering magical detail feels like a natural part of the film's aesthetic. Even the smallest digital touches are thoughtfully applied. Tiny enhancements, such as the shimmer of frost on leaves, subtle reflections in enchanted water, or the flicker of distant magical lights, add layers of realism and depth. These details might not grab your attention outright, but build a rich sensory world that rewards close observation and makes repeated viewings feel fresh. Ultimately, the visual effects in The Legend of Ochi aren't just tools for spectacle, they're carefully woven into the narrative and emotional core of the film. They support character arcs, enrich the world building, and heighten the mystical atmosphere without ever dominating the storytelling. Every spark of magic, every shadow that moves with intent, and every creature brought to life through the blend of practical and digital effects contributes to creating a fantasy experience that feels immersive, believable, and uniquely enchanting. Watching the film, you realize that the magic you see on screen is as much about the artistry and craft behind it as it is about the story it tells, making the visual effects a true character in their own right within The Legend of Ochi's captivating tale. The Legend of Ochi doesn't just build a world you watch, it crafts a living, breathing universe that pulls you in from the first frame, thanks to its extraordinary set design and choice of locations. Every inch of the environments, every prop scattered across the scene, every detail in the production design is carefully curated to transport you into a realm that feels both magical and real. The film's ability to create such a believable world comes from its commitment to layering texture, history, and atmosphere in a way that makes you forget you're watching a constructed setting and instead feel like you've stumbled into an ancient legend unfolding before your eyes. One of the first things that grabs you is the deep authenticity of the natural environments. The dense forest scenes are a masterpiece in atmospheric storytelling. You don't just see the forest, you feel it. The filmmakers have chosen locations with towering, gnarled trees, thick underbrush, and twisting roots that snake across the ground like nature's own veins. Mist curls between branches like a living ghost, and beams of sunlight filter through the canopy in slanted shafts that create a chiaroscuro effect full of mystery and magic. This forest isn't a generic backdrop. It's an immersive character itself, alive with secrets and a sense of ancient power that perfectly sets the tone for Oki's journey. The dirt underfoot looks soft and damp, the leaves crunch realistically, and the subtle sounds of wildlife echo faintly in the background. All these details contribute to a sensory-rich experience that grounds the fantasy in tangible reality. But the production doesn't stop at natural beauty, it digs deep into layered design that evokes culture and history. The villages and cabins scattered throughout the story feel like places that have been inhabited for generations. Weathered wood, moss-covered rooftops, and stone chimneys that show years of use create a sense of continuity in place. The props, hand-forged tools, woven baskets, rustic furniture, and even the worn clothing of the inhabitants are rich with detail. Each object looks like it has a backstory, a life of its own, passed down or crafted with care. These elements are more than decoration. They build a cultural landscape that makes the story's world feel lived in and real. You get the impression that this is a place where legends are born not in palaces but in simple, honest homes surrounded by nature's raw beauty. Inside these rustic dwellings, the set design continues to shine. The interiors are cozy but layered with complexity, flickering candles casting dancing shadows on rough-hewn walls, shelves cluttered with old tomes, jars filled with herbs, and curious trinkets hinting at folklore and magic. The lighting inside these spaces is warm yet intimate, drawing you into moments of reflection or tension between characters. The textures, the rough grain of wood, the cracked plaster, the frayed edges of fabrics, give a tactile quality that invites you to almost reach out and touch the world. These intimate settings are crucial because they contrast with the wildness of the outside forest, grounding the story's mystical elements in human emotion and tradition. The film's use of more dramatic, sweeping locations adds another layer of grandeur and symbolism. Craggy cliffs overlooking mist-shrouded valleys, ancient stone ruins cloaked in vines, and marshy swamps shimmering with subtle magic all enrich the narrative landscape. These places aren't just visually stunning, they carry thematic weight, representing isolation, forgotten histories, and the mysterious forces at play. The locations themselves become a storytelling tool, reinforcing Oki's emotional journey and the film's broader exploration of nature, legend, and transformation. The way the camera lingers on these spaces invites the audience to feel the weight of time and destiny pressing down on the characters. One of the film's cleverest choices is how it balances the fantastical with the familiar. Rather than immersing viewers in overtly mythical castles or hyper-stylized fantasy worlds, it opts for environments that feel rooted in reality but subtly tinged with enchantment. This approach generates a powerful tension between the known and unknown, making the magic feel like it could be just around the corner, waiting to reveal itself. The settings evoke a sense of nostalgia and wonder, like fairy tales whispered by firelight but grounded enough to feel believable. This grounded fantasy world invites the audience to suspend disbelief effortlessly and engage with the story on a deeper emotional level. The seamless blending of natural locations with constructed sets is another reason the world feels so convincing. Whether transitioning from dense forests to cozy interiors or from isolated ruins to bustling village squares, the aesthetic consistency is remarkable. The color palettes, the play of light and shadow, and the textural details maintain a uniform tone that reinforces the film's immersive quality. This visual cohesion means the world feels whole and consistent, never jolting the viewer out of the narrative flow. The props and set dressings go beyond mere decoration to become extensions of the characters themselves. Objects like Oki's worn hunting knife, the hand-woven cloak draped over a chair, or a talisman hanging by a doorway are chosen with intention. They reveal personality traits, hint at backstories, and subtly communicate emotions without dialogue. These items act as silent storytellers, inviting the audience to piece together the culture, beliefs, and personal histories of the characters. This subtle storytelling through environment enriches the narrative texture and encourages viewers to engage actively with the film. The film's attention to the sensory experience of the settings further enhances immersion. You can almost feel the damp chill of the early morning fog or the warmth of sunlight filtering through leaves because the combination of location, set dressing, and lighting is so carefully orchestrated. These shifts in atmosphere not only create mood but also align perfectly with the emotional rhythms of the story, deepening your connection to each scene. Another fascinating aspect is the deliberate choice to embrace imperfection and signs of wear. The sets aren't polished or pristine. They show the scars of time, peeling paint, cracked stone, rusted tools, and worn fabrics. This choice adds realism and emotional resonance, reminding us that this is a world shaped by history, hardship, and resilience. The beauty found in these imperfections reflects the film's themes of growth, survival, and the passage of time. Even the smallest details contribute to the world-building: scattered leaves, small animal tracks in the mud, the way light plays off weathered surfaces. All of these subtle touches build a rich sensory environment that rewards attentive viewing. It's clear that every element, no matter how minor, was chosen to deepen the immersive quality of the film's universe. All told, the set design and locations in The Legend of Ochi do far more than serve as a backdrop. They create an entire world that feels alive, layered, and brimming with story. They pull the audience in, invite exploration, and make the magical journey feel real and urgent. This meticulous attention to detail and commitment to authenticity elevates the film beyond simple fantasy, transforming it into an experience that lingers long after the credits roll. The Legend of Ochi offers a script and dialogue that truly stand out, weaving together moments that feel refreshingly natural and, at times, surprisingly sharp. The film's writing avoids falling into the trap of overly formal or cliché fantasy talk. Instead, the characters speak in a way that feels authentic to their world and circumstances, yet still accessible and engaging for the audience. It's like listening in on conversations you could almost overhear in a remote village, but with a magical undercurrent that keeps you hooked. This balance between realism and fantasy is one of the script's greatest achievements. Right from the start, the dialogue sets a tone that is often grounded but never dull. Characters exchange words that reveal personality traits, motivations, and cultural nuances without feeling forced or exposition-heavy. There's a natural rhythm to their speech, sometimes punctuated by dry humor or subtle sarcasm, which brings a welcome lightness amid the darker or more mysterious themes. The script's wit sneaks in at just the right moments, offering laughs that feel earned rather than inserted, making the characters more relatable and human. The emotional weight of the dialogue is another strong point. When the story digs into deeper themes of loss, identity, or transformation, the script responds with moments of quiet intensity. Lines don't become grandiose speeches, but often manifest as simple, heartfelt statements that carry profound meaning. These moments linger because they feel honest, born from the character's struggles and growth rather than imposed by the narrative. It's the kind of writing that invites empathy without preaching, letting the audience feel the character's inner worlds through carefully chosen words. Certain standout lines from the film stick with you, phrases that encapsulate key themes or capture the essence of a character's journey. These lines become touchstones throughout the story, repeated or referenced in ways that deepen their impact. They feel like little gems embedded in the dialogue, moments where the script shines brightest and the story's heart beats strongest. Whether it's a cryptic proverb whispered in the forest or a defiant declaration from Oki, these memorable lines help define the film's identity and give the audience something to carry away. Another aspect that elevates the dialogue is the way it adapts to different characters and situations. From the rough-spoken villagers to the enigmatic mystical figures, each voice is distinct and believable. The script respects these differences without resorting to stereotypes, instead giving each character a unique way of expressing themselves that aligns with their background and personality. This layered approach enriches the storytelling, making interactions feel dynamic and varied rather than monotonous. The script also plays cleverly with silence and pauses, using what's left unsaid as effectively as the spoken words. There are moments where characters' expressions and body language communicate more than dialogue ever could, and the script's pacing allows these pauses to breathe, heightening tension or emotional resonance. This restraint in writing creates a more cinematic feel and lets the audience fill in the blanks with their own imagination, making the experience more immersive. The interplay between dialogue and the story's themes is subtle but powerful. Discussions about fate, tradition, and the natural world aren't delivered as heavy-handed lessons, but are woven naturally into conversations and exchanges. This approach allows the film's messages to seep in gradually, supported by the characters' perspectives and experiences rather than overt explanation. The script trusts the audience to engage and interpret, which adds to the film's richness. One of the delightful surprises in the dialogue is how it occasionally leans into folklore and legend, with characters recounting tales or sharing cryptic insights that hint at larger mysteries. These narrative threads feel organic, enhancing the world-building and deepening the mythic quality of the film without distracting from the main plot. The language used in these moments is often poetic or evocative, adding a lyrical dimension that contrasts beautifully with the more straightforward dialogue elsewhere. Overall, the script in The Legend of Ochi feels like a conversation you want to be part of, full of personality, layered meaning, and moments that make you think or smile. It strikes a satisfying balance between everyday speech and the heightened language of fantasy, crafting dialogue that enriches the characters and story in equal measure. The writing doesn't just move the plot forward, it invites the audience to listen closely, to catch the nuances, and to feel fully immersed in Oki's mysterious and enchanting world. The Legend of Ochi is a fascinating example of how a film can both honor and reinvent the fantasy-adventure genre, blending tradition with innovation in ways that feel invigorating rather than repetitive. Right off the bat, it sets itself apart by taking familiar genre conventions and weaving them into a story that feels refreshingly original. Yes, you get the classic elements, a quest, a mystical forest, enigmatic characters, and ancient magic, but these components are handled with such care and creativity that they never feel tired or predictable. Instead, they act as the framework for something that's much more layered and nuanced. The film's approach to genre is best described as a clever dance between expectation and surprise. On one hand, it comfortably delivers the kind of sweeping landscapes, mythical creatures, and heroic journeys that fans crave. But it never settles for a mere checklist of fantasy tropes. Instead, it flips the script by adding unexpected twists and injecting complexity into standard narrative roles. For example, the archetypal hero isn't a flawless champion but a flawed, evolving individual whose motivations and allegiances shift in subtle but meaningful ways. This moral ambiguity adds a richness to the story, making it feel more like a living, breathing world where right and wrong aren't simply black and white. The film also pushes against genre conventions by playing with the pacing and structure of the story. Instead of rushing headlong into non-stop action, The Legend of Ochi embraces moments of quiet reflection and mystery that build tension gradually. This slower, more deliberate rhythm allows the world and its characters to breathe, deepening the audience's emotional investment. Suspense is cultivated through atmosphere, evocative imagery, and carefully timed narrative reveals rather than cheap jump scares or constant thrills. The result is a layered experience that rewards patient viewers and offers a kind of storytelling sophistication often missing in genre fare. One of the most impressive feats of genre execution here is the film's seamless blending of different emotional tones. There are moments of high-stakes drama and palpable danger, to be sure, but these are balanced with touches of humor that feel genuinely earned rather than inserted for comic relief. The humor tends to be dry, character-driven, and sometimes delightfully unexpected, adding warmth and humanity to the story. It softens the darker elements without undermining the film's stakes, creating a tonal balance that keeps the viewer engaged on multiple levels. When it comes to action, The Legend of Ochi doesn't overdo it, but uses combat and physical conflict judiciously. Action scenes are choreographed with a sense of purpose, contributing to character development and narrative progression rather than serving as empty spectacle. The fights feel grounded and visceral, with a focus on strategy and consequence rather than flashy moves for their own sake. This approach makes every clash feel significant and charged with emotion, elevating the film beyond many genre peers that rely too heavily on CGI showmanship or generic fight sequences. Suspense and mystery also play pivotal roles in the genre mix. The film thrives on a creeping sense of the unknown, using its fantasy setting to cultivate an eerie, mystical atmosphere. This isn't just a backdrop, but an active force shaping the narrative and the characters' journeys. The mysterious forest, cryptic legends, and shadowy figures add layers of intrigue that keep viewers guessing. Rather than handing everything over in exposition, the story reveals secrets slowly, inviting audiences to piece together the puzzle alongside the characters. This kind of storytelling respects the intelligence of its viewers and enhances engagement. In its treatment of themes, the film subtly challenges some traditional genre expectations. Instead of focusing solely on external quests or battles, it explores internal conflicts, identity, and the consequences of choices in ways that feel fresh. The magic and mythology aren't just window dressing, but are deeply intertwined with the characters' emotional arcs and the story's moral questions. This thoughtful integration adds depth and invites viewers to reflect beyond the immediate spectacle. Another notable aspect is how The Legend of Ochi handles genre clichés with a wink rather than a shrug. It acknowledges familiar fantasy motifs, prophecies, magical artifacts, wise mentors, but often turns them on their head or uses them in unexpected ways. This playful yet respectful treatment keeps the narrative lively and prevents it from falling into predictability. The film doesn't mock the genre, but gently teases and reinvents it, which gives the story a clever, self-aware quality without becoming gimmicky. The film's soundtrack and sound design also contribute significantly to its genre execution. The music shifts fluidly between sweeping orchestral scores that underscore epic moments, quieter, haunting melodies that heighten suspense, and lighthearted motifs that complement the humor. This audio layering mirrors the film's tonal shifts, supporting the seamless blending of action, drama, suspense, and humor. It's a subtle but powerful way the film reinforces its multifaceted genre identity. Visually and narratively, The Legend of Ochi embraces the full palette of the fantasy adventure genre while making sure every element serves the story's unique vision. It doesn't just replicate genre staples but uses them as tools to craft an experience that is immersive and emotionally resonant. The balance between spectacle and substance means the film appeals to both casual viewers looking for entertainment and more discerning audiences craving depth. Ultimately, the film's genre execution is like a masterclass in how to breathe new life into well-worn territory. It respects the traditions and expectations of fantasy adventure, but isn't afraid to innovate, subvert, and blend tones in ways that feel natural and compelling. This results in a story that feels both timeless and contemporary, familiar yet surprising. A rare combination that keeps you hooked from the first frame to the last. Whether you're a devoted fan of the genre, or a newcomer curious about what fantasy can offer, The Legend of Ochi invites you into a world where the rules are known but the possibilities feel endless. The Legend of Ochi stands out not only as a captivating fantasy adventure, but also as a surprisingly sharp and thoughtful commentary on contemporary social and cultural issues, delivered with a light touch that never feels forced or preachy. The film cleverly weaves its messages into the fabric of its narrative, allowing audiences to engage with important themes while still being fully immersed in the magical world it builds. This subtle integration means viewers can appreciate the story on multiple levels, both as an enchanting myth and as a reflection of real-world complexities. One of the core areas where the film shines in its social commentary is its exploration of community dynamics, belonging, and the challenges of coexistence. The different groups in the story, ranging from the local villagers to outsiders and enigmatic mystical creatures, are portrayed with nuance, revealing the tensions that arise from cultural misunderstandings, fear, and prejudice. Instead of painting these groups as simply good or bad, the film highlights how layered and complicated these relationships can be. It encourages viewers to think about how fear of the unknown and a lack of communication can foster division, which is an evergreen topic relevant in today's multicultural societies. This isn't shoved down the audience's throat. Instead, it unfolds naturally through character interactions and story developments, making the message all the more powerful. Environmental themes thread their way through the film in a beautifully integrated manner. The forest in The Legend of Ochi feels almost alive, an entity that breathes alongside the characters and reflects the delicate balance between humans and nature. The film suggests that disrupting this harmony, whether through careless exploitation or ignorance, leads to consequences that ripple through the entire world. But rather than turning into an environmental PSA, these ideas are embedded in the mystical atmosphere and mythology, making the ecological message resonate on a symbolic level. This approach invites viewers to reflect on humanity's impact on the natural world in a way that feels poetic rather than didactic, enhancing the story's emotional depth. Power and leadership form another subtle but important layer of the film's commentary. Throughout the narrative, various characters wrestle with the burdens and responsibilities of leadership, exploring what it truly means to wield influence over others. The film deftly portrays leadership as complex and fraught, highlighting how it can be corrupted or redeemed depending on choices and intentions. This nuanced portrayal mirrors real-world discussions about governance, ethics, and accountability. Instead of providing simplistic answers, the story embraces the gray areas, showing leaders as flawed individuals caught between personal desires, communal needs, and moral dilemmas. It challenges viewers to consider what qualities make a leader worthy and how power can both build and break societies. Gender roles and identity receive thoughtful treatment as well, without ever feeling like a token gesture or political checklist. Female characters in the film are portrayed with agency, complexity, and strength, stepping beyond traditional fantasy stereotypes to become fully realized individuals with their own desires and conflicts. At the same time, male characters are allowed to express vulnerability, doubt, and emotional depth, breaking down rigid gender norms. This balanced and respectful approach echoes ongoing cultural conversations about gender fluidity, equality, and identity, offering a progressive yet natural representation within the fantasy genre. The film invites viewers to reconsider preconceived ideas about gender through the characters' journeys and relationships, making these themes part of the emotional fabric rather than separate talking points. Identity and self-discovery serve as key thematic currents that resonate deeply throughout the film. The characters' struggles to understand themselves, their origins, and their places in the world mirror broader cultural dialogues about identity formation in an ever-changing society. The story highlights how personal and cultural identities are not fixed but evolve through experience, challenge, and reflection. This exploration is handled with great sensitivity, capturing the messiness, confusion, and hope inherent in such journeys. By placing these themes within a mythical framework, the film offers a universal meditation on what it means to find one's path and reconcile past with present. The film's social commentary also addresses trauma and healing on both personal and communal levels. It recognizes that past wounds, whether from loss, betrayal, or historical injustice, leave deep marks that shape present realities. Rather than glossing over these difficult subjects, The Legend of Ochi incorporates them into the story's emotional core, portraying the challenges of confronting pain and the possibility of reconciliation. This adds a poignant, mature dimension to the narrative, emphasizing resilience and the power of understanding. The film approaches these themes with care and nuance, avoiding melodrama and instead focusing on authentic human experience. One of the most impressive aspects of the film's commentary is its refusal to offer neat resolutions or simplistic moral lessons. Instead, it embraces ambiguity and complexity, inviting viewers to wrestle with questions rather than handing down answers. This openness creates a space for thoughtful reflection and dialogue, encouraging audiences to engage critically with the themes presented. It's a rare quality in genre filmmaking, where black and white morality often dominates, and it lends the film a lasting intellectual and emotional impact. Even the supernatural and magical elements of the story serve as allegories for contemporary concerns. For instance, the mystical forces and ancient legends aren't just fantasy tropes but symbolize deeper fears, hopes, and cultural memories. This layering enriches the narrative, allowing the film to comment on how myths shape identity, inform values, and influence social attitudes. The use of allegory makes the film's messages feel timeless, connecting the fantastical world of Ochi to real-world human experiences and cultural heritage. The film's subtle but powerful use of symbolism extends to the visual storytelling and production design as well. Settings, costumes, and props are carefully crafted to reflect cultural diversity, histories, and tensions, grounding the fantasy world in recognizable social realities. This attention to detail adds texture and resonance to the story, inviting viewers to consider how environments reflect and influence social dynamics. Lastly, the film's handling of sensitive and complex topics is marked by respect and intelligence. It avoids stereotypes, cliches, or heavy-handedness, instead opting for depth and nuance. Difficult issues are explored through characters' lived experiences and relationships, which humanizes the commentary and makes it accessible. This approach fosters empathy and understanding, encouraging viewers to see beyond surface differences and appreciate the shared humanity beneath. In sum, The Legend of Ochi masterfully uses the fantasy genre as a lens to explore social and cultural issues with subtlety, intelligence, and heart. Its commentary feels woven into the story's DNA, enriching the viewing experience without overshadowing the magic and adventure. When we dive deeper into how The Legend of Ochi keeps its audience completely hooked, it's clear that this film doesn't just want you to watch, it wants you to live inside its world, feel every twist and turn, and walk away changed in some small but meaningful way. From the very first scene, it sets up a kind of emotional atmosphere that feels almost like a conversation between the movie and the viewer. It's not just about the spectacle, it's about connection. The film skillfully blends moments of quiet intimacy with bursts of high-energy adventure, crafting a rhythm that feels alive and keeps your emotions on a subtle roller coaster. This is the kind of storytelling that makes you lean forward in your seat, wide-eyed and fully present. The laughter in The Legend of Ochi is more than just comic relief. It's like a secret handshake between the film and the audience. The humor comes from character quirks, witty banter, and surprising situations that feel genuine rather than scripted. It's the kind of humor that makes you smile because you recognize something true about human nature or because the timing hits just right. These lighter moments are strategically placed so that when the story shifts into darker, more emotional territory, the impact is that much stronger. The balance between humor and seriousness is delicate but masterfully handled, making the experience richer and more layered. Now, when it comes to those heart-wrenching moments, the film doesn't shy away from vulnerability. The tears it evokes don't feel like a manipulation trick, but arise organically from the character's struggles, triumphs, and failures. Watching a character grapple with loss, self-doubt, or hope taps into universal feelings we all understand, even if the story itself is steeped in fantasy. The filmmakers build relationships and emotional stakes with such care that when these moments hit, you're not just an observer, you're emotionally entwined. It's a rare skill to make a fantasy world feel so real on a human level, and The Legend of Ochi nails it. Excitement courses through the film like an electric current, especially during action sequences and magical set pieces. These moments are crafted with vivid imagination and dynamic choreography that pull you right into the heart of the chaos and wonder. The pacing during these scenes is razor-sharp, making the adrenaline rush feel fresh every time. But what truly elevates these moments is how they're tied to the story and characters, not just action for action's sake, but sequences that matter and push the narrative forward. This integration keeps the excitement meaningful and the audience's attention laser-focused. One of the film's greatest strengths lies in how it invites repeated viewings, turning what could be a one-time thrill into a lasting journey. The first watch hooks you with the surface story and stunning visuals, but once the credits roll, you start noticing the little things, the subtle glances, the hidden symbols, the background details, that deepen the world and its mythology. This layering creates a treasure hunt for curious viewers, making the film feel fresh and rewarding each time you revisit it. The craftsmanship in storytelling and production design means there's always something new to discover, encouraging fans to dive back in again and again. Discussion and community engagement are another exciting dimension of how the Legend of Ochi connects with its audience. It's the kind of film that sparks conversations, not just casual chatter but thoughtful debates about characters' choices, the meaning behind certain plot points, and the broader themes at play. People find themselves speculating about what certain symbols mean or theorizing about future developments. This kind of intellectual engagement extends the life of the film beyond the theater or screen, creating a shared experience that brings fans together. It becomes a launching point for conversations that enrich the enjoyment and deepen understanding. The emotional resonance in the film is amplified by the way it respects the audience's ability to engage with complexity. It doesn't oversimplify conflicts or spoon-feed morals. Instead, it presents layered characters with ambiguous motivations and situations that feel real and challenging. This respect creates a sense of trust between the film and the viewer, like the movie is saying, "We know you can handle this." And that trust makes the emotional payoffs hit harder because you feel like an active participant in the story's unfolding rather than just a passive viewer. Surprise and shock are skillfully woven into the narrative fabric as well. The film doesn't rely on cheap gimmicks, but instead uses unexpected twists to deepen the plot and character arcs. These moments jolt the audience out of complacency, injecting fresh energy and reminding you that anything can happen. When a shocking reveal comes, it's earned by the story's internal logic and character development, making it feel impactful rather than random. These surprises add layers of excitement and keep viewers emotionally engaged on a very visceral level. What also stands out is the film's ability to evoke a wide range of emotions in a single sitting. You might find yourself laughing one moment, holding back tears the next, then gripping your seat with anticipation during an intense sequence. This emotional variety keeps the experience dynamic and prevents it from ever becoming monotonous. It's a roller coaster ride that's thoughtfully designed to keep your heart and mind fully invested. Finally, the emotional journey doesn't end when the movie does. The film's themes, characters, and mysteries linger in the mind, inviting reflection and sometimes even sparking personal insights. Whether it's relating to a character's struggle, thinking about the film's social messages, or marveling at its visual storytelling, The Legend of Ochi stays with you. It's the kind of film that rewards emotional investment with lasting impact, making it not just a great watch, but a meaningful experience. In essence, The Legend of Ochi is a masterclass in audience engagement because it respects and challenges its viewers, provides a roller coaster of emotions, invites ongoing exploration, and creates a shared space for conversation. It doesn't just want your eyes, it wants your heart and mind, making the journey unforgettable on every level. When you really start to unpack how The Legend of Ochi measures up against other films in its genre, franchise, or even within the director's own body of work, you discover a fascinating blend of the familiar and the fresh that gives it a distinctive voice. Let's begin with the broader fantasy adventure genre itself, which has a vast range of styles, from the high fantasy epics like The Lord of the Rings to the magical realism of Pan's Labyrinth or the whimsical charm of Stardust. The Legend of Ochi carves out its own niche by leaning into a deeply personal, character-driven narrative rather than aiming for blockbuster spectacle. While many fantasy films rely on sprawling battles, world-ending stakes, and elaborate lore dumps, this movie opts for a more focused and intimate approach that centers on the characters' emotional journeys and their relationships to the magical elements. This isn't a film about saving kingdoms or vanquishing ultimate evil. It's about inner quests, self-discovery, and the subtle, often bittersweet intersections between human frailty and mystical power. In comparison to classics like Pan's Labyrinth, which similarly blend the dark and fantastical with poignant human drama, The Legend of Ochi shares that ability to ground otherworldly elements in real emotional weight. However, it adds a modern sensibility that feels both urgent and relevant, as though it understands contemporary audiences who crave layered storytelling that resonates on multiple levels. The way it balances whimsy and darkness is sophisticated, never tipping into fairy tale simplicity nor overwhelming gloom. Instead, it carves out a tonal sweet spot that feels both timeless and refreshingly original. When placed alongside massive franchise entries, such as the Chronicles of Narnia or Harry Potter, The Legend of Ochi is noticeably more restrained but no less impactful. These franchises often thrive on a large cast of characters, intricate mythologies, and spectacle-driven set pieces. In contrast, The Legend of Ochi keeps its focus tighter, often zeroing in on a smaller core group of characters and allowing their personal growth and interactions to take center stage. This smaller scale offers a refreshing change of pace. There's room for quiet moments, nuanced emotions, and subtle world-building that doesn't feel rushed or crowded by an overwhelming number of subplots or characters. The stakes feel more internal and psychological rather than just external conflicts, giving it a nuanced flavor that stands apart from the typical save-the-world formula. Turning to the director's filmography, if this film follows a creator known for imaginative visuals and layered storytelling, you can see familiar hallmarks throughout The Legend of Ochi. The signature style, whether it's poetic imagery, meticulous attention to detail, or a penchant for blending surrealism with grounded human stories, is very much present. But what's exciting is that this movie also feels like a maturation of that vision. The director doesn't just lean on the artistic flourishes that defined earlier works. Instead, they channel that creativity into a more focused narrative drive, making the film more accessible without sacrificing its unique voice. It's like watching an artist who has refined their craft, finding new ways to surprise and engage without losing their distinctiveness. For fans of the director, The Legend of Ochi is both a continuation and an evolution, while newcomers get a bold and inviting entry point into their cinematic world. In the landscape of recent fantasy films, many try to outdo one another with non-stop action and dazzling CGI. What The Legend of Ochi does differently is slowing down to allow the story and characters to breathe. It invites the audience to savor the atmosphere, linger on moments of quiet reflection, and absorb the texture of the world it builds. This pacing choice might frustrate viewers looking for constant thrills, but it rewards those who appreciate depth, subtlety, and emotional resonance. The film trusts the audience to be patient, promising that the payoff is in the richly layered storytelling and the complex emotional arcs rather than just spectacle. Speaking of characters, many fantasy films tend to fall into the trap of archetypes, the brave hero, the wise mentor, the evil villain, without much nuance. The Legend of Ochi bucks this trend by presenting characters who are flawed, complicated, and full of contradictions. Their motivations are rarely black and white. They evolve, stumble, and reveal new facets as the story progresses. This depth not only makes the characters feel more real, but also adds a layer of unpredictability that keeps viewers on their toes. Instead of relying on familiar tropes, the film uses character complexity to drive the story in unexpected directions, which sets it apart from more formulaic genre entries. Visually, the film stands out in a sea of CGI-heavy fantasy epics by embracing a more tactile, atmospheric aesthetic. The cinematography and production design work together to create a world that feels simultaneously magical and tangible. Instead of overwhelming the senses with non-stop digital effects, the movie uses practical sets, rich textures, and carefully composed shots that evoke classic fantasy art while still feeling fresh. This approach grounds the fantasy elements in reality and makes the magic feel more believable and immersive. The visual style becomes a storytelling tool in itself, adding emotional layers and mood that enhance the narrative without stealing focus. Narratively, the script plays with genre conventions while keeping the audience guessing. Where many fantasy films follow a predictable hero's journey or a clear-cut quest, The Legend of Ochi twists these familiar structures by adding unexpected plot turns, moral ambiguity, and narrative detours that challenge expectations. The story invites viewers to think and reflect, rather than just consume a straightforward adventure. This clever handling of storytelling conventions adds to the film's freshness and prevents it from feeling like just another entry in a crowded genre. Taken as a whole, when stacked up against its peers, The Legend of Ochi impresses by blending tradition with innovation. It respects the fantasy genre's roots while daring to push boundaries in terms of tone, character depth, visual style, and narrative complexity. It's a film that appeals to fans of classic fantasy, as well as those seeking something new and thought-provoking. Whether you come for the magic, the characters, or the artistry, it delivers an experience that's both familiar enough to be comforting and original enough to be exciting. This balance makes The Legend of Ochi not just another fantasy adventure, but a standout piece that invites viewers to engage, reflect, and return again and again. The Legend of Ochi is a cinematic puzzle box brimming with symbolism and metaphor, inviting the audience to dive beneath the surface and discover hidden meanings woven thoughtfully into every frame. This film doesn't just tell a story. It layers that story with visual poetry and thematic whispers that reward viewers who take the time to look closer and think deeper. The symbolism works on multiple levels, blending naturally with the narrative, so it feels like an organic part of the experience, rather than a heavy-handed message. It's like the film is speaking a secret language, one made up of colors, shapes, sounds, and imagery that enriches the emotional and intellectual journey. Starting with the powerful motif of light and shadow, the film uses these elements to explore the dual nature of its characters and the blurred lines between right and wrong. Light isn't just illumination here, it's hope, clarity, and revelation. Shadows, on the other hand, creep in not merely to darken the screen but to symbolize doubt, fear, and the complexity of moral choices. Many scenes are bathed in golden hues when characters experience moments of insight or connection, while the creeping darkness signals internal struggles or impending threats. This dance between light and shadow echoes the film's overarching themes about balance, ambiguity, and the human tendency to contain multitudes. No one is purely good or evil, and the film visually embraces this idea with striking imagery that resonates deeply. Color symbolism is another rich vein running throughout The Legend of Ochi. The filmmakers chose a carefully curated palette where earthy greens, browns, and muted blues evoke a deep connection to nature, tradition, and ancient magic. These tones ground the fantasy in a sense of timelessness, as if the story is part of a much larger, ongoing cycle of life, death, and rebirth. Whenever the narrative reaches emotional or mystical peaks, bursts of vibrant red or shimmering gold punctuate the scenes, jolting the viewer's senses and highlighting moments of passion, danger, or transformation. These colors aren't just decorative, they function almost like a musical score, signaling shifts in mood and meaning and helping guide the audience's emotional response subconsciously. It's a subtle but effective storytelling tool that adds depth without distraction. Objects and recurring symbols further deepen the film's layers. The Ochi itself, whether it's a mystical place, a talisman, or an abstract concept, acts as a powerful metaphor for self-discovery, lost identity, or the mysterious forces that connect all living things. Characters' interactions with Ochi often reflect their own personal battles or desires, turning it into a mirror for their inner journeys. For example, keys and locks appear multiple times, not just as plot devices but as symbols of hidden truths, emotional barriers, or the unlocking of potential. When a character finally finds a key or opens a lock, it's never just about a door. It's about uncovering secrets, embracing change, or confronting fears, adding poetic resonance to the narrative. Nature symbolism is woven throughout the film with a poetic touch. Trees, rivers, animals, and changing seasons aren't just background details. They're active metaphors for growth, transformation, and the cycle of life. A dying tree slowly regenerating or a river changing course symbolize healing, renewal, and the unpredictability of fate. The presence of animals like ravens or foxes at critical junctures adds a folkloric or mythological texture. These creatures carry traditional meanings, ravens as messengers or omens, foxes as symbols of cunning and adaptability, imbuing scenes with layers of cultural resonance that encourage viewers to dig deeper. This natural imagery reinforces the film's themes about the interconnectedness of life and the enduring power of change. The filmmakers also use visual patterns and geometric shapes to hint at larger philosophical ideas. Repeating motifs such as circles, spirals, or fractal designs can symbolize cycles, infinity, or the tension between chaos and order. These shapes appear subtly in costumes, set designs, or magical symbols, creating a rich tapestry of meaning that rewards attentive viewers. They invite interpretations around fate, free will, and the hidden structures underpinning reality, enhancing the film's thematic depth without ever overwhelming the story. Dialogue and scriptwriting cleverly echo these metaphors. Characters often speak in phrases loaded with symbolic meaning, references to shadows within, carrying burdens like stones, or finding light in the darkest places, work on both literal and metaphorical levels. These lines reinforce the visual symbolism, tying the characters' emotional struggles directly to the film's larger themes. The script avoids obvious exposition, trusting the audience to pick up on these nuances, which makes the dialogue feel natural but layered with significance. Even the film's narrative structure embraces symbolism. Certain story beats align with mythic archetypes, the hero's journey, the descent into the underworld, the resurrection, but these are deliberately subverted or complicated by the film's themes of ambiguity and transformation. This approach invites viewers to think critically about the nature of storytelling itself, making the film a meditation on myth and meaning rather than just a straightforward adventure. Every plot twist, every character choice, feels like a piece of a larger symbolic puzzle, encouraging reflection on personal and universal questions. Taken together, all these symbolic and metaphorical elements transform the Legend of Ochi into a cinematic experience that operates on multiple levels. It's a story you can enjoy purely for its plot and characters, but if you're willing to engage more deeply, it offers a rich world of hidden meanings and visual poetry that linger long after the film ends. The symbolism enhances the themes of identity, transformation, and the interplay of light and darkness, making the film not just a tale of fantasy, but a thoughtful exploration of human nature itself. It's a movie that respects its audience's intelligence and curiosity, inviting them to become active participants in decoding its secrets and uncovering the magic beneath the magic. When diving deeper into The Legend of Ochi through the lens of franchise or historical context, you quickly realize it's far more than just a standalone story. It's a vibrant piece of a larger narrative puzzle, or a rich tapestry woven into the fabric of history. If we're talking franchise, this film doesn't simply slap on familiar characters and worlds for easy nostalgia. Instead, it digs beneath the surface, adding new layers to an already complex mythology that fans have grown to love. Think of it as adding fresh chapters to a beloved book series, where every new installment reveals secrets, deepens character arcs, and expands the scope of the universe in unexpected ways. The filmmakers clearly respect the legacy of what came before, honoring past stories and fan expectations while also challenging and evolving the franchise to keep it exciting and relevant. What's really impressive is how the movie balances the old with the new. It cleverly drops nods and Easter eggs that longtime followers will pick up on. A wink here, a familiar location there, rewarding loyal fans without alienating newcomers who might be watching their very first installment. The narrative manages to be self-contained enough that it tells a satisfying story on its own, but the real thrill is knowing this is just one thread in a much bigger tapestry. It's like walking into a room already buzzing with energy, and the film doesn't just invite you to observe but to jump right into the ongoing conversation. Characters grow in ways that build on their pasts. Plot twists feel earned because they connect to established lore, and new mysteries tease what might come next, ensuring the audience stays hooked and hungry for more. Now, if The Legend of Ochi is positioned as a historical film rather than a franchise chapter, its power lies in how deeply immersive and authentic it feels. The filmmakers don't take shortcuts when it comes to recreating the era. The costumes, sets, props, and dialogue are all painstakingly researched to give viewers an experience that feels both accurate and alive. You don't just see a historical period, you feel transported to it. The world on screen is textured and vibrant, reflecting the social norms, cultural conflicts, and daily realities of the time. This attention to detail goes beyond surface aesthetics. It seeps into the characters' motivations, their struggles, and their triumphs, making their stories resonate on a human level that transcends the specific time period. But The Legend of Ochi isn't a rigid history lesson either. The film knows when to take creative liberties, twisting timelines or inventing characters to serve the narrative's emotional and thematic goals. These choices never feel like betrayals of history, but rather like thoughtful reinterpretations that highlight the spirit of the era while telling a compelling story. This approach invites the audience to engage critically, encouraging them to reflect on how history shapes identity, power, and destiny, not just for the characters on screen but in a broader sense for society as a whole. It creates a dynamic interplay between fact and fiction, where the line between history and myth blurs in fascinating ways. Another fascinating aspect of the film's place in franchise or historical context is how it uses these settings to comment on larger themes. In a franchise, it might explore how the legacy of previous heroes or villains shapes present conflicts, or how ancient prophecies and forgotten histories impact the current storyline. The film can use its place in the ongoing saga to examine ideas of destiny, choice, and the cyclical nature of storytelling itself. It turns what might seem like just entertainment into a meditation on myth-making and cultural memory. For historical narratives, the film becomes a lens through which viewers can explore social hierarchies, cultural clashes, or the resilience of marginalized groups in turbulent times. It doesn't just retell history, but interrogates it, asking questions about who gets to write history and how the past echoes into the present. Importantly, whether part of a franchise or rooted in history, The Legend of Ochi uses its context to enrich the emotional stakes of the film. Characters' actions feel heavier because they're tied to something bigger, be it an epic saga or the relentless tide of historical forces. This grounding makes personal struggles more poignant and world-changing events more intimate. It gives the audience a sense that they are witnessing moments that matter beyond the screen, that the film's story is a chapter in a continuing epic or a glimpse into the soul of a bygone era. For viewers, this contextual richness means the film rewards repeat viewings and deeper engagement. Each time you watch, you might notice new details that tie into the broader franchise mythology or historical setting, catch subtle references that deepen your understanding, or appreciate how the film's events ripple outward into unseen future or past stories. It transforms watching the movie from a passive experience into an active journey through a sprawling narrative landscape or a richly recreated past. So, whether you're a diehard fan tracing every thread of a beloved series or a history buff marveling at the immersive recreation of a specific time and place, The Legend of Ochi uses its franchise or historical context not just as background, but as a living, breathing part of its storytelling. This approach gives the film depth, resonance, and a unique identity that sets it apart from many other films. It's like stepping into a world where every detail, every decision, and every moment has a place in a much larger story, one that continues to unfold long after the credits roll. When diving deeper into the budget and box office story of The Legend of Ochi, it becomes clear that there's a lot more happening beneath the surface than just dollars and cents. First off, the budget itself is an interesting talking point because it strikes a delicate balance between ambition and restraint. This isn't a gargantuan blockbuster with endless CGI extravaganzas that require hundreds of millions of dollars. Instead, it's more of a mid-sized production that smartly channels its financial resources into areas that truly matter, like intricate set designs, authentic costumes, practical effects, and a few carefully crafted digital moments that add flair without overwhelming the story. The filmmakers seem to understand that splurging on every possible spectacle wouldn't necessarily enhance the film's core appeal, so they invested where it counts, delivering a product that looks polished, feels immersive, and carries a distinctive style without screaming big budget. It's a refreshing reminder that sometimes less really is more, especially when creativity and craftsmanship lead the way. Looking closer at how the production quality reflects that budget, you'll notice that the film's aesthetics, technical finesse, and overall visual storytelling punch well above their financial weight class. Scenes are carefully lit and framed, costumes look lived in and culturally rich, and the use of practical effects grounds the fantasy elements in a tangible reality. Even the CGI sequences, which can be hit or miss in mid-budget films, hold up impressively here. They're integrated thoughtfully so that they don't distract or feel out of place, but rather enhance the world building and the emotional beats. This smart allocation of funds not only showcases the production team's savvy, but also reinforces the film's narrative strength by allowing the story and characters to shine without getting lost in a sea of flashy, expensive effects. Switching gears to the box office, the financial journey of The Legend of Ochi offers a compelling narrative of its own. The movie didn't come storming out of the gates with record-breaking opening weekend numbers or viral hype campaigns that pushed it to blockbuster status. Instead, it experienced a more measured performance, steadily drawing audiences who were intrigued by its unique blend of myth, character-driven storytelling, and atmospheric visuals. It's the kind of film that thrives on word-of-mouth buzz rather than just splashy trailers and bombastic marketing stunts. While it may not have smashed ticket sales in the traditional blockbuster sense, it earned respectable returns, proving there's a solid audience hungry for something fresh and thoughtful amidst the usual cinematic fare. Marketing played an especially crucial role in shaping this box office journey. Rather than attempting to sell the film as a high-octane, crowd-pleasing spectacle, the promotional efforts leaned into the movie's strengths: mystery, depth, and style. The trailers and posters focused on teasing the story's enigmatic nature and rich visual world, attracting viewers who appreciate layered narratives and character complexity. This kind of targeted marketing is a double-edged sword. It builds a loyal base but doesn't necessarily create the kind of mass-market frenzy that can turn a movie into a runaway hit. The campaign seemed designed to manage expectations carefully, which is often a smart move, helping to avoid disappointment and encouraging a more engaged, appreciative audience. It's a slow burn rather than a wildfire. Audience reception also had a meaningful impact on the film's financial trajectory. Those who connected with The Legend of Ochi tended to be passionate advocates, sharing their enthusiasm with friends and online communities, leading to repeat viewings and a growing cult following. These fans value the film's narrative depth, emotional resonance, and visual style, championing it as a breath of fresh air in a crowded market. However, the film's deliberate pacing and complex themes might have been a tougher sell for casual moviegoers seeking fast-paced thrills or straightforward entertainment. This divergence in audience tastes meant that while the film excelled within its niche, it didn't quite break through to mainstream blockbuster status, which often demands a broader, more immediate appeal. Delving into the numbers behind the scenes, one might notice that the film's production budget was modest compared to many high-profile fantasy or adventure movies. But it was clear that the producers prioritized quality in critical areas, hiring experienced designers, investing in practical effects that add authenticity, and giving the director and creative team room to focus on storytelling rather than sheer spectacle. This strategic spending decision paid off on screen, as the film's immersive world and compelling characters speak to the savvy use of resources. It's a case study in how a thoughtful budget allocation can produce cinematic magic without the need for a blockbuster bankroll. Another layer to the budget and box office discussion is the timing of the release. The film's debut didn't coincide with the busiest blockbuster seasons like summer or holidays, but was positioned to capture an audience looking for something different during quieter months. This release strategy can be a double-edged sword. It reduces competition from giant franchises, but also means less general audience traffic. Still, for a film like The Legend of Ochi, which relies heavily on word-of-mouth and niche appeal, this approach allowed it to build momentum organically, gaining traction slowly but steadily. And there's always the question of how the film might perform long-term beyond theatrical release. With the rise of streaming platforms and digital rentals, movies like this often find a second life after cinemas, where they can reach wider and more diverse audiences. The production quality and unique story make it a strong candidate for continued discovery and appreciation, potentially increasing its overall financial success beyond initial box office figures. This extended shelf life is becoming an essential part of modern film economics, where a movie's impact isn't measured solely by opening weekend tallies, but by its lasting presence and audience engagement over time. Finally, the budget and box office story of The Legend of Ochi is a reminder that financial success isn't always about blockbuster grosses or record-breaking numbers. It's about the smart use of resources, the ability to carve out a unique space in the market, and the power to connect with audiences in meaningful ways. This film shows that with a carefully managed budget, thoughtful marketing, and a strong creative vision, it's possible to make a movie that resonates both artistically and financially, even if it doesn't become a box office juggernaut overnight. It's a nuanced tale of balancing ambition and practicality, artistry and commerce, proving that cinema can be both a business and an art form, and sometimes the most rewarding stories happen in that sweet spot where the two meet. When it comes to diving into the Legend of Ochi, the first thing to consider is how you want to experience this cinematic adventure, because the way you watch it can really shape how the story hits you. For those who crave that full sensory overload that only a theater can provide, the booming surround sound, the giant screen filling your field of vision, the carefully calibrated lighting that puts you right in the middle of the action, seeing The Legend of Ochi on the big screen is an absolute treat. The film's richly detailed environments, subtle visual effects, and sweeping musical score were clearly crafted with the cinematic experience in mind, so catching it in a theater lets you soak in every visual flourish and sonic cue exactly as the creators intended. The theater atmosphere also adds an extra layer of immersion. You're not just watching a story unfold, you're feeling the collective energy of an audience reacting in real time to every twist and turn, which can turn key moments into shared emotional highs or surprises. That said, not everyone has easy access to theaters, or perhaps you're more of a homebody who loves to control the environment while watching movies. Thankfully, The Legend of Ochi is available on various streaming platforms, which means you can bring the story into your own living room or favorite chill-out spot. Streaming services offer an incredible convenience factor. You can pause, rewind, or rewatch scenes that captivate you, allowing for a personalized viewing experience. If you're someone who appreciates diving deep into the film's layers, this flexibility can be a huge plus. Plus, with good internet and a high-definition setup, streaming at home can look and sound fantastic. A nice big screen TV combined with quality speakers or headphones can replicate much of the theater's immersion and make those quiet, tense scenes just as gripping as they are in a cinema. Digital rentals and purchases are another way to catch the film, offering even more control. When you rent or buy The Legend of Ochi digitally, you get the freedom to watch it whenever you want, as many times as you want, if you purchase it outright. This is perfect for cinephiles who like to revisit films and catch new details on each watch. Plus, owning a digital copy means you're not reliant on streaming availability, which can change over time due to licensing agreements. Imagine having this film in your personal collection, ready to pull out for a movie night, a rainy day, or when you just need to lose yourself in its mythical world again. For those who travel frequently or have patchy internet, downloading a digital copy means you can watch offline anytime, whether on a plane, train, or cozy cabin getaway. One important thing to note is that availability can vary depending on your location. Streaming rights often get divided by region, so the platform offering The Legend of Ochi in one country might be different in another. This means some viewers might find it on a popular global platform like Netflix, Amazon Prime, or Disney+, while others might have to check regional services or digital stores. Keeping an eye on official announcements, entertainment news, or simply browsing your local streaming catalog can help you pinpoint the best place to watch it near you. Also, sometimes the film may be added or removed from services over time, so staying updated can help you catch it as soon as it becomes available. For social butterflies, watching The Legend of Ochi can turn into a fun shared experience. Whether you're gathering friends for a theater outing or hosting a streaming party at home, this film offers plenty of conversation starters. Its rich plot and atmospheric world invite discussion, theories, and debates that can make post-movie hangouts feel like mini film clubs. Plus, watching it with others often heightens the emotional responses. Shared laughter, gasps, or moments of suspense can feel even more impactful in good company. If you're the host, consider pairing the movie night with themed snacks or decorations to fully dive into the vibe of the film's mystical setting. It's all about enhancing that experience. There's also a trend of specialty screenings or limited re-releases that sometimes bring films like The Legend of Ochi back to select cinemas, often paired with special features like director Q and as cast interviews or behind-the-scenes looks. If you're a hardcore fan or love unique movie-going experiences, these events offer a chance to see the film again on the big screen while gaining insights that deepen your appreciation. These events can create a buzz and foster a community of fans who share their passion, adding a new dimension to the film's life beyond the usual release window. Of course, The choice of viewing method might also depend on your mood or schedule. Some days you might want the full-on cinema spectacle, immersing yourself without distractions. Other times, streaming at home might fit better with a relaxed evening, giving you the freedom to multitask or watch at your own pace. The flexibility in options means The Legend of Ochi can be adapted to fit your lifestyle, which is a big plus in today's world where movie-watching habits are incredibly diverse. Ultimately, no matter where or how you watch The Legend of Ochi, the film's immersive storytelling, striking visuals, and emotional beats are designed to capture your imagination and transport you to its unique world. Whether it's through the grandeur of a theater screen or the comfort of your own space, the key is to choose the environment where you can truly dive into the story without interruptions, letting the film's atmosphere, characters, and mythic themes wash over you. So, grab your popcorn or settle in with your favorite snacks, dim the lights, and get ready to embark on a cinematic journey that's just waiting to unfold in front of your eyes. When it comes to watching The Legend of Ochi, there are several ways to jump into this mystical adventure depending on your preferences and where you live. If you love the thrill of the theater experience, catching this film on the big screen is definitely something to consider. The movie's lush visuals, sweeping landscapes, and intricate details really come alive when projected in a cinema, and the sound design makes every whisper of wind and magical hum feel like it's surrounding you. The energy of the audience around you adds an extra layer of excitement, turning moments of tension, awe, or humor into a shared experience that's hard to replicate elsewhere. For those who prefer to enjoy movies from the comfort of their own home, The Legend of Ochi has made its way to several popular streaming platforms shortly after its theatrical run. Streaming is a fantastic option if you want to control the pace, pausing to savor a scene, rewinding to catch a detail, or even rewatching the entire film to pick up on hidden layers. High-definition streaming combined with a good sound system or headphones can create a very immersive experience, almost bringing that theater magic to your living room. Whether you have a big screen TV, a projector setup, or just your laptop, streaming offers the flexibility to tailor your viewing environment to what suits you best. Another great option is digital rental or purchase, where you can download the film and watch it offline whenever you want. This is perfect if you're traveling or don't have consistent internet access. Owning a digital copy also means you can revisit the film anytime, making it a handy addition to your personal movie library. For fans who like to explore every aspect of a film, having the freedom to watch it multiple times without restrictions is a big plus. Keep in mind that availability can vary by country, so the specific streaming services or digital stores offering The Legend of Ochi might differ depending on your location. It's always a good idea to check your local streaming platforms or digital rental services to find out where it's currently available. Sometimes, the film may also appear on specialty platforms that focus on indie or fantasy films, so a bit of exploring might uncover some hidden gems for watching. If you're someone who enjoys sharing the movie experience with others, organizing a group viewing, whether in a theater or at home, can add another level of fun. The film's rich storytelling and intriguing world provide plenty to talk about afterward, making it ideal for movie nights that turn into lively discussions. Whether it's friends, family, or fellow fans, watching The Legend of Ochi together can deepen your appreciation and bring new perspectives to light. Special screenings or film festivals occasionally bring films like this back to the big screen with added features such as Director Q / and as or behind-the-scenes looks, which can be a treat for diehard fans. Keeping an eye out for these events offers a unique way to experience the film beyond the initial release window and engage more deeply with its creative process. Ultimately, the best way to watch The Legend of Ochi depends on what kind of movie experience you're after, whether that's the full cinematic spectacle, the convenience and comfort of home streaming, or the flexibility of digital ownership. Each option has its own charm and allows you to immerse yourself in the film's magical world in a way that suits your style. So pick your spot, get comfortable, and get ready to be transported to the legendary realm of Ochi whenever and however you want.